A $5,000 suit doesn't make you a king, but Carter had to learn that lesson the hard way. Today's story follows a man whose ego was written all over his platinum credit card, and Jordan, the woman he mistook for the help, simply because she was wearing a hoodie. He didn't just mock and humiliate her, he tried to kick her out of her own seat. What Carter failed to realize was that he wasn't merely a passenger on a flight. He was a guest on her private plane. By the time they land, he's going to lose a lot more than his frequent flyer miles. Stay tuned. You do not want to miss the karma that hits this guy at 40,000 feet. The air inside the signature flight support terminal at Teterboro Airport smelled of expensive espresso and leather polish. It was a smell Jordan Banks knew well, mostly because she paid for the beans and the furniture. Jordan sat in a secluded corner of the lounge, her legs curled up on a wide armchair, wearing a faded grey hoodie from a university she had donated 3 libraries to and black leggings that had seen better days. She typed furiously on her phone, finalizing the acquisition of a logistics firm in Dubai. To anyone glancing her way, she looked like a tired assistant waiting for her boss, or perhaps a college student who had wandered into the wrong building. She preferred it that way. In the high-stakes world of aviation and global logistics, being underestimated was a tactical advantage. Today, she was flying aboard the flagship of her newest venture, Vanguard Aviation, a luxury charter service designed to bridge the gap between commercial first class and private jet ownership. She was flying Ghost, unannounced, anonymous, and checking the service quality personally. Can you believe the incompetence? A booming voice cut through the quiet hum of the lounge. Jordan didn't look up, but she shifted her posture slightly. A man strode into the lounge as if he were marching into battle. He was tall, wearing a navy pinstripe suit that screamed bespoke tailoring, likely Savile Row. A heavy gold watch, an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, glinted on his wrist as he gestured wildly with a platinum credit card. I specifically requested the Glencairn crystal for the Scotch service, not standard tumblers. The man barked at the terrified concierge behind the marble desk. Do you know who I am? Do you know how much my firm spends with this airline annually? I apologize, Mr. Sterling, the concierge stammered, typing frantically. I will message the cabin crew immediately to ensure everything is to your liking. Carter Sterling. Jordan mentally filed the name. She tapped a separate app on her phone, her internal company database, and ran a quick search. Carter Sterling, CEO of Sterling Equities, mid-tier hedge fund, notorious for abusing staff, Vanguard Platinum member. See that you do, Carter huffed, turning away from the desk. He scanned the room for a seat, his eyes landing on the expansive window view of the tarmac, where the Gulfstream G700 sat gleaming in the afternoon sun. He began to walk toward the window, but his path took him directly past Jordan. He stopped, looking down at her with a mixture of confusion and disdain. "Excuse me," Carter said, his voice dripping with condescension. Jordan paused her typing and looked up. "Yes." "The staff break room is down the hall, past the restrooms," Carter said, pointing a manicured finger. "This area is for passengers, high net worth passengers." Jordan blinked, genuinely amused. "I'm aware of where I am, thanks." Carter let out a sharp, incredulous laugh. He looked around, seeking validation from the empty room. "Listen, sweetheart. I don't know if you're waiting for a pilot boyfriend, or if you're here to clean the ashtrays, but you're cluttering up the vibe. This is a 5-figure flight. You look like you're waiting for a bus to Jersey." Jordan set her phone down on her lap. Her expression didn't change. "I have a ticket, just like you, Mr. Sterling." Carter stiffened. "How do you know my name?" "You shouted it at the concierge 5 seconds ago," Jordan said calmly, "along with your demand for specific glassware." Carter's face reddened. "You have a ticket? On the G700 to London?" He looked her up and down, sneering at her sneakers. "Did you win a lottery? Or did some rich old guy pity you? God, they really are letting just anyone in these days. Vanguard used to be exclusive." "Vanguard has been operating for 6 months, Jordan corrected him gently. "It's always been about accessibility for the right clientele." "Exactly, the right clientele," Carter snapped. "Which isn't you. Look, do me a favor. When we board, stay out of my way. I have meetings to prep for, and I don't need to smell whatever fast food you've been eating." He didn't wait for a response. He spun on his heel and marched to the far side of the lounge, pulling out his laptop and aggressively slamming the keys, making sure everyone knew he was working. Jordan watched him for a moment, a small, dangerous smile playing on her lips. She picked up her phone and sent a text to the lead pilot, Captain Miller. "We have a VIP who requires special attention today. Mr. Carter Sterling. Let's make sure he feels the full weight of his status." She didn't specify what kind of weight. The boarding process for a G700 is unlike boarding a commercial flight. There are no lines, no boarding groups, and certainly no fighting for overhead bin space. The concierge approached Jordan first. "Ms. Banks," the concierge said softly, adhering to the protocol Jordan had established. "Treat her like a normal passenger, but prioritize her boarding." "We are ready for you." Jordan stood up, grabbing her battered leather backpack. As she walked toward the glass doors, Carter Sterling's voice rang out again. "Hey, excuse me." Carter jumped up from his leather chair, his face twisting in outrage. "Why is she going first?" The concierge turned, keeping a polite smile plastered on her face. "We board passengers based on seat assignment and booking tier, Mr. Sterling." "I am a platinum member," Carter stormed over, cutting off Jordan's path to the door. He loomed over her, using his height to intimidate. "I spend $500,000 a year on flights. This girl is wearing a hoodie. You're letting her board before me?" "Mr. Sterling, please," the concierge said, her voice tightening. "Ms. Banks is in seat 1A. The silence that followed was heavy. Carter stared at Jordan, then at the concierge, then back at Jordan. 1A, Carter whispered, as if the concept offended him physically. "I requested 1A. My assistant specifically requested the forward single captain's chair." "It was already booked, sir," the concierge said. "You are in 2A, directly behind her." Carter's face turned a shade of purple that clashed with his tie. He turned his glare onto Jordan. "You took my seat." "I booked a seat," Jordan said, adjusting her backpack straps. "It happened to be 1A. "How?" Carter demanded, stepping into her personal space. "How could you possibly afford 1A? That seat is $12,000 one way. Who paid for it? Your daddy?" Jordan's eyes went cold. "Move, Mr. Sterling. You're blocking the door." "I will not move," Carter shouted. He looked at the concierge. "I want her bumped. Move her to the back. There's a divan in the rear cabin. Put her there. I need the privacy of 1A for my work." "I cannot move a passenger who has paid full fare, sir," the concierge said, her patience thinning. "I'll pay you," Carter spat at Jordan. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a money clip. He peeled off 5 $100 bills and threw them at Jordan's feet. "There, $500. Take the back seat and buy yourself some new clothes when we land." The bills fluttered to the floor, landing on the polished concrete. Jordan looked down at the money, then up at Carter. The entire lounge had gone silent. 2 other passengers, a tech CEO and a renowned surgeon, were watching with wide eyes. Jordan didn't bend down. She didn't blink. "Pick it up," Carter sneered. "That's probably a week's rent for you." "Mr. Sterling," the concierge interjected, her voice shaking with repressed anger. "You are disrupting the boarding process. If you continue, we will have to—" "You'll have to what?" Carter spun on the concierge. "Kick me off? Do you have any idea who I know? I play golf with the VP of operations for this airline. 1 call and you're fired. 1 call and this garbage," he gestured to Jordan, "is on the no-fly list." Jordan sighed. She checked her watch. They were burning daylight. "Keep your money, Carter," Jordan said, stepping around the bills. "And I suggest you board. I'd hate for you to miss your meeting in London because you were too busy throwing a tantrum in New Jersey." She walked past him, brushing his shoulder. He recoiled as if he'd been touched by something infectious. "This isn't over," he hissed at her back. "You think you can disrespect me? You're going to regret getting on this plane." Jordan walked onto the tarmac, the cool wind hitting her face. The G1100 was magnificent, sleek, silver, and powerful. At the top of the stairs stood Sarah, the lead flight attendant, who had been with Jordan since her very first venture. Sarah's eyes widened slightly when she saw Jordan's attire, but she maintained perfect professional composure. She knew Jordan's face, even though they had never flown together on this specific route. "Welcome aboard, Miss Banks," Sarah said with a warm, genuine smile. "Hi, Sarah," Jordan said quietly, leaning in as she stepped onto the plane. "We have a situation. 2A is going to be a problem. Don't serve him any alcohol until we're at cruising altitude, and even then, slow roll him. And let Captain Miller know I'm secure." "Understood, Ma'am," Sarah whispered. Jordan settled into seat 1A. It was a masterpiece of engineering, hand-stitched Italian leather, fully reclining, with a 32-inch 4K screen. She took off her backpack and placed it in the side storage. Moments later, Carter Sterling stomped onto the plane. He glared at Sarah, ignoring her welcome, and threw his coat at her. "Hang that up, and be careful with it. It costs more than your car," he snapped. He threw himself into seat 2A, directly behind Jordan. He kicked the back of her seat, hard. "Comfortable up there, princess," he muttered, loud enough for her to hear. "Enjoy it while it lasts. I'm going to make the next 7 hours a living hell for you." Jordan put on her noise-cancelling headphones, selecting a playlist of classical piano. She closed her eyes. Let him dig, she thought. He's just digging his own grave. The Gulfstream G700 leveled off at 45,000 feet, cruising smoothly above a blanket of clouds that looked like spilled milk against the twilight sky. Inside the cabin, the ambient lighting shifted to a warm, calming amber, a feature designed to reduce jet lag. For Jordan, it was a moment of peace. She opened her laptop, the screen privacy filter ensuring that the sensitive financial spreadsheets of Vanguard Aviation remained invisible to prying eyes. She was reviewing the passenger manifest for the week, flagging a few VIPs for upgrades, when a heavy sigh from behind her broke her concentration. "Unbelievable," Carter groaned loudly. "Hey, stewardess, service, we're dying of thirst back here." Sarah, the lead flight attendant, appeared almost instantly from the galley. She had removed her blazer and was now in the immaculate service vest of the cabin crew. Her face was composed, but Jordan noticed the slight tension in her jaw. "Mr. Sterling," Sarah said softly. "My name is Sarah. How can I help you?" "I've been waiting 10 minutes for a drink," Carter lied. It had been 3 minutes since the seatbelt sign turned off. "I want a scotch, the Macallan 25. "Neat. And bring the bottle. I want to inspect the seal." "I'm afraid we don't serve full bottles at the seat for safety reasons, sir," Sarah explained politely. "But I would be happy to pour you a double." "Just bring the drink." Carter waved his hand dismissively. "And what is she having?" He jabbed a finger toward the back of Jordan's head. "Ms. Banks has requested sparkling water with lime," Sarah said. Carter snorted, a loud, wet sound. "Of course she has. Can't afford the upgrade to the liquor cabinet? Figures. Hey, hoodie girl, you know the booze is free, right? Or are you underage? You look like you're 12. Jordan paused her typing. She didn't turn around. She simply raised her hand, signaling Sarah. Sarah stepped around to 1A. "Yes, Ms. Banks." "Sarah, could you please bring me the noise-cancelling headset? The built-in one seems to be letting in a bit of background static," Jordan said, her voice calm and level. Sarah's eyes crinkled in a suppressed smile. "Right away, Mum." "Oh, very funny," Carter barked from behind. "You think you're clever. You're sitting in a seat that costs more than your education. You should be showing some respect to the people who actually pay for the economy that lets you exist." Jordan put the headset on, drowning him out. But peace was short-lived. 20 minutes later, the dinner service began. Vanguard prided itself on its culinary partnerships. The menu for this flight featured a choice between Chilean sea bass with a miso glaze or a filet mignon, sourced from a specific ranch in Wyoming. Sarah placed the linen tablecloth on Jordan's tray table with practiced elegance. "For you, Ms. Banks, the sea bass, as requested via the app." The smell was divine, savory, sweet, and perfectly cooked. "Wait a minute," Carter's voice boomed. Sarah froze as she turned to serve him. "Is there a problem, Mr. Sterling?" "I wanted the fish," Carter snapped. "I have the filet mignon prepared for you, sir," Sarah said patiently. "On your pre-flight preference form, you selected meat." "I changed my mind," Carter said, staring at Jordan's plate. "That fish smells better. Give me that one." "I'm sorry, sir, but we load meals based on pre-selection to minimize waste. I have the steak for you, or a vegetarian pasta option." Carter unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up. The cabin was spacious, but his aggression made it feel small. He loomed over Sarah. "Are you telling me," he hissed, "that because this nobody ordered the fish I can't have it? I am Carter Sterling. I pay a membership fee. She probably used a Groupon." "Sir, please sit down," Sarah said, stepping back slightly. "Take a plate," Carter demanded, pointing at Jordan's food. "She hasn't touched it yet. Switch them. Give her the steak. She probably likes red meat. She looks like a carnivore." Jordan took off her headphones. She turned her seat 180 degrees, a feature of the G700, so she was facing Carter directly. "Mr. Sterling," Jordan said. Her voice wasn't loud, but it had the distinct, razor-sharp edge of a CEO addressing a rebellious junior associate. "Sit. Down." Carter blinked, startled by the authority in her tone. Then his face twisted into a sneer. "Excuse me? You don't tell me what to do. You're lucky to be breathing the same recycled air as me. You are harassing the crew, Jordan said, and you are disturbing the other passengers. Eat your steak or eat nothing. But if you speak to Sarah like that one more time, we're going to have a problem that money can't fix. Carter laughed. It was a cruel, hollow sound. Oh, I'm terrified. What are you going to do? Write a bad review on Yelp? I could buy your family's house with the change in my pocket. He turned to Sarah and snatched the tray of steak from her hands, nearly spilling the red wine sauce on the carpet. Fine, I'll eat the cow. But note this down. Service is 1 star. And I want a refund on my membership for having to fly with riffraff. He sat down heavily, stabbing his fork into the meat. Jordan caught Sarah's eye. She gave a tiny nod. I've got this. Sarah exhaled, mouthing a thank you, and retreated to the galley. Jordan turned her seat back around, but she didn't eat immediately. She pulled up the in-flight Wi-Fi dashboard. As the owner, she had admin privileges. She saw Carter's iPhone and Carter's MacBook Pro connected to the network. She tapped a command, throttle bandwidth. She set his connection speed to 56K, dial-up speed. Enjoy your movie, Carter, she whispered to herself. 2 hours into the flight, the atmosphere in the cabin was toxic. Carter had finished his steak, complaining loudly with every bite that it was overcooked, though it was a perfect medium rare, and had moved on to trying to work. Jordan was sipping an espresso, reading a digital report on the European market, when the swearing started. Come on, load, you piece of junk! Carter slammed his hand against the armrest. He was staring at his laptop screen. He refreshed the page. He toggled his Wi-Fi. He held his phone up to the window as if altitude would help the signal. Stewardess! He screamed. Sarah appeared again, looking weary. Yes, Mr. Sterling. The Wi-Fi is broken. Fix it. The Wi-Fi is fully operational, sir. Other passengers are using it without issue, Sarah said calmly. Well, mine isn't working. I'm trying to download a pitch deck and it says 3 hours remaining. I have a meeting the second we land. I can try to reset the router, but it will take the system offline for everyone for 10 minutes, Sarah offered. Do it, Carter demanded. I don't care about everyone. I need this file. I'm in the middle of a live conference call. The tech CEO in seat 3A spoke up for the first time. He was a quiet man named David. Please do not reset the router. Carter spun around. My business is worth more than your little chat, pal. I'm closing a deal with Archer Logistics. Do you know who they are? They control shipping lanes in 3 oceans. If I don't get this deck, the deal stalls. Jordan's ears perked up. Archer Logistics. She knew Archer Logistics very well. It was a subsidiary of her holding company, Orion Group. In fact, she had been reviewing the acquisition proposals for Archer just last week. There was a rumor that a mid-sized hedge fund was trying to leverage a buyout of a minor division. But the financials were shaky. Jordan minimized her window and opened a secure chat with her VP of Acquisitions, a man named Marcus, based in London. Jordan, who is pitching to Archer Logistics today? Marcus, reply, Sterling Equities, Carter Sterling, trying to buy the Overland Trucking Division. Why? Jordan, he's on my flight, he's rude, and he's trying to download his pitch deck on 56K speed. Marcus, reply, LOL, the deal is already lukewarm. His liquidity is questionable. We were going to pass anyway. Jordan smiled. She typed back, don't pass yet. Let him present. I want to see this." "It's not working," Carter shouted again, throwing his phone onto the empty seat beside him. "This is sabotage. I bet it's her." He stood up and pointed at Jordan. You're streaming 4K movies, aren't you? You're hogging the bandwidth." Jordan turned around slowly. "I'm reading a PDF, Carter. It uses almost no data." "Liar! You're watching Netflix. Turn it off. Turn off your device right now so I can work." He stepped into the aisle and lunged toward her seat, reaching for her iPad. This was the line. Before his hand could touch her device, Jordan's hand shot out. She didn't strike him, but she clamped her hand around his wrist with a grip of surprising iron. She had trained in Krav Maga for 3 years, a necessity for a woman traveling alone with billions in assets. Carter froze, shocked by the physical resistance. "Do not," Jordan said, her voice dropping an octave, deadly quiet. "Touch my property, and do not touch me." She squeezed his wrist, just enough to hit a pressure point. Carter yelped and yanked his hand back, rubbing it. "You assaulted me!" Carter shrieked, looking around for witnesses. "Did you see that? She attacked me. That's battery. I'm pressing charges." "You reached into her personal space, son," the surgeon in seat 4A said, looking over his glasses. "She acted in self-defense. Sit down before you embarrass yourself further." "Embarrass myself?" Carter was hyperventilating now, his face slick with sweat. The stress of the failed Wi-Fi and the perceived disrespect was breaking him. "I'm going to destroy you, all of you. When we land, I'm having the police waiting. You," he pointed at Jordan, "are going to jail. And you," he pointed at Sarah, "are fired. I'll buy this airline just to fire you." Jordan released a long, slow breath. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. It was the internal line to the cockpit. "Captain Miller," she said into the phone, her eyes locked on Carter's. "Yes, Miss Banks." The pilot's voice came through clear. "We have a level 2 disturbance in the cabin. Passenger in 2A is aggressive and has attempted to snatch property from another passenger. No physical restraints needed yet. But please radio ahead to Heathrow. I want airport security and the local constabulary to meet the plane at the gate." "Copy that, Ms. Banks. Do you want to divert?" "No," Jordan said, holding Carter's gaze. "I want to get to London. I have a meeting to attend, and apparently so does Mr. Sterling." She hung up. Carter stared at her, his mouth slightly open. Who did you just call? You can't call the pilot. Only the crew can call the pilot." "I have my ways," Jordan said enigmatically. "Now sit down, Carter. You have a pitch to prepare for, remember? Although, without your deck, good luck." Carter looked at his blank screen, then at Jordan. Fear began to creep into his eyes, replacing the anger. Not fear of her authority, he was too arrogant for that, but fear that she might actually be crazy enough to call the police on him. "You're bluffing," he muttered, sinking back into his seat. "You're just a crazy girl in a hoodie. The police will laugh at you." He pulled a flask from his jacket pocket, a violation of FAA regulations, and took a long swig. "We'll see," Jordan said, turning back to her window. Below them, the Atlantic Ocean was vast and dark, but the storm inside the cabin was just getting started. Jordan tapped her phone again, restoring Carter's Wi-Fi speed to normal. Let him get the deck, she thought. Let him walk into that meeting feeling confident. It will make the fall so much harder. She sent one final text to Marcus. Set up the meeting for 2:00 p.m. at the London HQ. I'll be there, and make sure Sterling is there too. I want to handle the negotiation personally. Marcus, reply. Understood. Should I tell him the CEO is coming? Jordan, tell him the owner is coming. Don't say my name. The trap was set. Now, all they had to do was land. The descent into London was turbulent, buffeted by crosswinds that shook the G700. Most passengers gripped their armrests, but Jordan Banks sat perfectly still, staring out the window at the grey patchwork of the English countryside rising to meet them. Carter Sterling, however, was a wreck. The combination of the overcooked steak, the scotch he had gulped down, and the gnawing anxiety about his pitch deck had left him pale and sweaty. As the wheels screeched onto the runway and the plane taxied toward the private terminal, Carter was already unbuckling his seatbelt. "Remain seated until the aircraft comes to a complete stop," Sarah announced over the intercom, her eyes fixed firmly on the back of Carter's head. Yeah, Carter muttered, grabbing his leather briefcase. "I have places to be. Important places." When the cabin door opened, the cool, damp London air rushed in. Carter elbowed past the tech CEO, David, who was retrieving his coat. "Out of my way," Carter grunted. "VIP coming through." He bounded down the stairs, his shoes clacking on the metal. At the bottom of the stairs, however, he stopped dead. 2 police vehicles were parked near the wing, their blue lights flashing silently. 3 officers stood with their arms crossed, looking up at the plane. Beside them stood a black Range Rover with tinted windows and a driver holding a tablet. Carter's face broke into a smug, vindictive grin. He turned back to look up the stairs where Jordan was emerging, her backpack slung over one shoulder, looking small and unassuming in her hoodie. "Ha!" Carter shouted, pointing a finger at her. I told you I'd have them waiting. You thought you could assault a man of my stature and get away with it." He rushed toward the lead officer, a tall constable with a stern face. "Officer," Carter yelled. "That's her, the woman in the grey rags. She assaulted me at 40,000 feet. She threatened the crew. I want her arrested immediately. I'm Carter Sterling, and I'm pressing full charges." The constable didn't look at Carter. He looked past him, directly at Jordan. He stiffened and gave a sharp nod of respect. "Ms. Banks," the constable said, stepping around Carter as if he were a traffic cone. "Welcome back to London. We received a report of a disturbance aboard your aircraft." Carter froze. His brain stuttered. "Your aircraft?" "Thank you, officer," Jordan said, walking down the stairs with an easy grace. She stopped in front of the police, ignoring Carter entirely. "We did have an incident. A passenger became aggressive, harassed the crew, and attempted to seize another passenger's property." "Lies!" Carter sputtered, though his voice was an octave higher than usual. "She's the aggressor. Look at her. She's nobody." The constable turned his gaze to Carter. It was a look of withering assessment. "Sir, I suggest you lower your voice. You are currently standing in a secure zone." "But she—" "Mr. Sterling," Jordan interrupted, her voice cool. "You have a meeting, don't you, with Archer Logistics?" Carter blinked. "How do you know that?" "You screamed it at the top of your lungs for 3 hours, Jordan said. She turned to the officer. "Officer, I'm not going to press charges right this moment. This man has a very important business engagement. I wouldn't want to be the reason he misses the opportunity of a lifetime." The officer looked confused, but deferred to her. "Are you sure, Ms. Banks? We can detain him for questioning regarding the air rage incident." "Let him go," Jordan said, a cruel little smile touching her lips. "I prefer to handle my problems personally. Besides, if you arrest him now, He'll have an excuse for why he failed today. I want him to have no excuses. She turned to Carter. Go on, Carter. Run along. Don't keep them waiting. Carter looked between the police and Jordan. He didn't understand what was happening. Why were the police listening to the girl in the hoodie? Why did the pilot salute her as he leaned out the cockpit window? But self-preservation kicked in. He saw an opening to escape, and he took it. You're lucky, Carter sneered, adjusting his tie, trying to regain his shredded dignity. You're lucky I'm a busy man. If I didn't have a 9-figure deal to close, I'd have your little life ruined right here. Stay out of my way, or next time, I won't be so merciful. He spun around and marched toward the terminal exit, waving frantically for a taxi. Jordan watched him go. The driver of the black Range Rover stepped forward and opened the rear door. Good afternoon, Miss Banks, the driver said. Straight to the hotel? Jordan shook her head. She pulled her hair out of the ponytail and shook it loose. No, James, she said, sliding into the plush leather interior. Take me to the Archer Logistics headquarters at the Shard. I need to change first, though. Stop by the flat. I need my armor. The blue suit, Mom. No, Jordan said, her eyes narrowing as she watched Carter's taxi speed away in the distance. The black one. We're attending a funeral. The headquarters of Archer Logistics occupied the 45th and 46th floors of the Shard, offering a panoramic view of London that usually took visitors' breath away. Carter Sterling, however, was too stressed to admire the view. He sat in the waiting room, his leg bouncing nervously. He had arrived 20 minutes late, thanks to traffic, and his suit felt sticky from the flight. He had tried to freshen up in the restroom, but he still felt off balance. He checked his reflection in the glass wall. You're Carter Sterling, he told himself. You're a shark. These logistics guys are dinosaurs. You're going to eat them alive. Mr. Sterling, a young assistant stood at the door. Mr. Marcus Thorne is ready for you now. Carter grabbed his briefcase and strode in, projecting confidence he didn't feel. The boardroom was massive, dominated by a long table made of reclaimed oak. At the far end sat Marcus Thorne, the VP of Acquisitions, a sharp-looking man in his 50s with silver hair and a poker face. Mr. Sterling, Marcus said, not standing up. You're late. Apologies, Carter said, taking a seat at the opposite end of the table. He set up his laptop. My flight was suboptimal. The airline let some riffraff into first class. It was a chaotic environment, hard to prepare. Is that so? Marcus said dryly. Well, you're here now. Let's hear it. Why should Sterling Equities be the one to take over our trucking division? Carter launched into his pitch. He was good at this, spinning numbers, making promises of optimization and synergy. He spoke for 20 minutes, his confidence growing. He felt he had them. The numbers were solid, even if his liquidity was a bit stretched. And finally, Carter concluded, leaning back, we believe the current leadership of the division lacks the aggressive edge needed in today's market. We would restructure. Trim the fat. Marcus nodded slowly. He tapped a pen against his notebook. It's an interesting proposal, Mr. Sterling. But there is one final hurdle. The final sign-off for a divestiture of this size doesn't come from me. It comes from the owner of our parent company, Orion Group. Of course, Carter said dismissively. I'm happy to meet with him. When is he available? She, Marcus corrected. And she is here now. In fact, She insisted on being present for this specific pitch. She? Carter raised an eyebrow. I wasn't aware Orion had a female CEO. Owner, Marcus said again, emphasizing the word. Not just CEO, the majority shareholder. She built the conglomerate from the ground up. The double doors at the side of the room opened. The sound of high heels clicking on the hardwood floor echoed in the silence. Carter stood up to greet the new arrival, putting on his best charming smile. Madam, it is a please. The words died in his throat. Jordan Banks walked into the room. She was not wearing the grey university hoodie. She was wearing a bespoke black power suit that fit her like a second skin. Her hair was styled in sleek, professional waves. On her wrist was a Patek Philippe watch that cost more than Carter's car. But it was the face, the same eyes that had looked at him with amusement in the lounge, the same face he had sneered at for 7 hours. Carter's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. He gripped the edge of the table, his knuckles turning white. You, he whispered. No, this is a joke. Jordan didn't look at him. She walked to the head of the table, past Marcus. Marcus stood up immediately and pulled out a chair. Good afternoon, Ms. Banks, Marcus said respectfully. Thank you, Marcus, Jordan said. Her voice was the same, calm, authoritative, but now it carried the weight of the entire building. She sat down and finally turned her eyes to Carter. The silence stretched for an agonizing 10 seconds. Please sit down, Mr. Sterling, Jordan said. Carter collapsed into his chair. He felt faint. But the hoodie, the economy seat. I own Vanguard Aviation, Mr. Sterling, Jordan said, opening a leather folder in front of her. I test my own product to ensure quality control. And today, the quality control test failed. Not because of the crew. Sarah and Captain Miller are excellent, but because of the clientele. Carter swallowed hard. Ms. Banks, I had no idea. It was a misunderstanding. I was stressed. The flight. You told me, Jordan interrupted, looking at her notes, that I looked like I was waiting for a bus to Jersey. You threw $500 at my feet. You called me the help. You tried to kick me out of a seat on my own airplane. I was joking. Carter laughed nervously, sweat pouring down his forehead. It was just banter, a little travel humor. Jordan's expression hardened. And then you assaulted me. You tried to physically snatch my property because you felt entitled to my bandwidth. That wasn't a joke, Carter. That was a display of character. And in my business, character is the only asset that matters. She picked up the printed copy of his pitch deck, the one he had struggled to download. She held it up. I've read your proposal, she said. It's solid, right? Carter grasped at the straw. The numbers work, the synergy. Jordan ripped the document in half. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet room. She dropped the pieces on the table. The numbers are fiction, she said coldly. I know your liquidity is dried up. I know you're leveraging this potential deal to secure a loan to pay off your last bad gamble. You're not here to optimize my company, Carter. You're here to strip mine it to save your own skin. Carter stood up, his face red. Now wait a minute. You can't speak to me like that. I am a respected investor. You are a bully with a credit card limit you're about to max out, Jordan countered, her voice rising slightly. And I don't do business with bullies. She pressed a button on the intercom console on the table. "Security," she said. "Miss Banks," a voice crackled back. "Please escort Mr. Sterling from the building and revoke his visitor pass permanently." "Understood. You can't do this," Carter shouted, pointing a shaking finger at her. "I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone what you did. You entrapped me." "I existed," Jordan said simply. "You did the rest yourself." Two large security guards entered the room. They flanked Carter. "Mr. Sterling," one of them said. "This way." Carter grabbed his briefcase. He looked at Jordan one last time, his eyes filled with hate and humiliation. "This isn't over. You hear me? This isn't over." "Oh, but it is," Jordan said, turning her attention back to Marcus. "And Carter?" He paused at the door. "I've cancelled your Vanguard membership," she said without looking up. "Effective immediately. You'll have to fly commercial home. I hear economy is lovely this time of year." The doors closed, shutting off his sputtering protests. Jordan let out a long breath and leaned back in her chair. Marcus looked at her with a small smile. "Rough flight?" he asked. "You have no idea," Jordan replied, "but the landing was worth it." The heavy glass doors of the Shard didn't just close behind Carter Sterling. They sealed with a finality that felt like a vault locking. Before he could even turn around, the security guards released his arms, leaving him stumbling onto the wet pavement of London Bridge Street. The English weather, seemingly in on the joke, chose that exact moment to open up. It wasn't a romantic, misty drizzle. It was a freezing, torrential downpour that fell in sheets, instantly soaking through the Super 150's wool of his bespoke navy suit. The fabric, which had cost more than most people's cars, clung to him like a wet rag. Carter stood there, shivering, water dripping from the end of his nose. He stared up at the skyscraper, its peak lost in the grey clouds. Somewhere up there, in the warmth, Jordan Banks was likely signing paperwork that would obliterate his company's future. "This is a mistake," Carter muttered to the passing traffic, his voice trembling. "I can fix this. I just need to get to a landline. I need to call Greg." He fumbled for his smartphone with numb fingers. The screen was wet, making it hard to unlock. He wiped it frantically on his soaked sleeve. That's when he noticed the notifications. Usually, Carter's phone would ping every few minutes with emails or market updates. But this was different. The phone wasn't pinging. It was vibrating continuously, a relentless, seizure-like buzz that made his hand shake even more. 150 missed calls, 4,000 plus, new mentions on X, formerly Twitter, DM from Greg. "Call me now." Carter's heart hammered against his ribs. He ignored Greg's message for a second and opened the social media app. At the top of the trending in business list was a hashtag, Angel Toxic Sterling. Confused, he tapped it. The first post was a video. Carter watched, paralyzed, as the screen played back a high-definition video taken from Seat 3A, the seat occupied by the quiet man, David. The angle was perfect. It showed Carter looming over Jordan, his face twisted in an ugly, arrogant snarl. The audio was crystal clear. "I am Carter Sterling. I pay a membership fee. She probably used a Groupon." The video cut to him snatching the food tray. Then, the pièce de résistance. Him lunging at Jordan, his face purple with rage, screaming about bandwidth, followed by Jordan's calm, ironclad grip on his wrist. The caption read, "Mid-tier hedge fund manager Carter Sterling assaults a woman on a private jet for stealing his bandwidth. Little does he know, she owns the plane and the airline, and the company he's trying to pitch to. Watch karma do its work. Vanguard Aviation. Carter looked at the account that posted it. David V. Tech. David Vance, the founder of Nebula Systems, a man with 12 million followers. No, Carter whispered, the color draining from his face. No. He scrolled down to the comments. It was a bloodbath. Market Watch. Sterling Equities is going to have a hard time explaining this to their LPs. Absolute PR suicide. Sarah J. I used to be his assistant. He threw a stapler at me once because his coffee was lukewarm. This is who he is. Invest King. Selling my position in anything this guy touches. If he treats people like this in public, imagine what he does with your money in private. The video had 8.2 million views. It had been online for 4 hours. His phone rang in his hand, startling him so badly he nearly dropped it in a puddle. The caller ID said, "Greg, partner," Carter answered, desperate. "Greg, listen to me, it's a setup. The video is edited. That woman, she provoked me, she—" "Shut up, Carter." Greg's voice wasn't angry. It was cold. Dead. It was the voice of a man cutting off a gangrenous limb to save the body. "Greg, you have to issue a statement," Carter pleaded, water running into his mouth. "We can spin this. We can say I was under medical stress. We can sue for defamation." "There is no we anymore," Greg said flatly. "I just got off the phone with the board, and our 3 biggest institutional investors. They saw the video, Carter. They saw you assault a woman over Wi-Fi. It wasn't assault. I just reached for the iPad." "It doesn't matter," Greg roared, losing his composure for a split second before reining it back in. "You are radioactive. No one will take a meeting with us if your name is on the door. We are triggering the moral turpitude clause in your partnership agreement. Effective immediately, you are terminated for cause." You can't do that," Carter stammered. "I built half that portfolio." "And you just burned it down in 3 minutes of viral footage," Greg replied. "Security is packing your personal effects into a box as we speak. Do not come to the office. Your keycard has been deactivated." "And Carter?" "What?" Carter whispered, tears mixing with the rain. "Your corporate Amex has been cancelled. Good luck getting home." The line went dead. Carter stared at the phone until the screen went black. He was standing on a street corner in London, soaked to the bone, fired, publicly humiliated, and effectively homeless. He checked his banking app. He had his personal debit card, but he knew his liquidity was low. He put almost everything back into the firm to project wealth. He had about $2,000 available. He hailed a taxi. It took 10 minutes for one to stop, the driver looking skeptically at the dripping wet man in the ruined suit. "Heathrow," Carter said, his voice hollow. "Just get me to Heathrow." The airport was a nightmare. Without his Vanguard membership, Carter was forced to fly commercial. He marched to the ticket counter of a major airline, demanding a first-class ticket to New York. "I'm sorry, sir," the agent said, eyeing his wet hair. "First and business are fully booked. We have a full flight today." "I need to get to New York," Carter snapped, his old habits dying hard. "Do you know who I am?" The agent paused. She looked at him closely. A flicker of recognition crossed her eyes. She had seen the video. Her polite smile turned razor-thin. "Yes, Mr. Sterling, I believe I do know who you are. We have 1 seat left. Economy Basic. It's non-refundable." "Economy?" Carter recoiled as if she had offered him a seat in the cargo hold. "I don't fly economy." "Then you can swim," she said pleasantly. "Do you want the seat or not? It's $1-800. Last-minute fare." Carter ground his teeth. He slammed his personal debit card on the counter. The security checkpoint was the next humiliation. Carter was used to private terminals, walking straight from the car to the plane. Here, he stood in a winding, suffocating line for 45 minutes. He was jostled by tourists. He was bumped by backpacks. When he finally reached the front, he had to take off his belt and his shoes. Standing in his socks on the cold linoleum floor, holding up his trousers, he felt the last shred of his dignity evaporate. He walked to the gate. He didn't have lounge access. He sat on a hard plastic chair near the window, watching the rain streak the glass. Boarding began. Group 1, Group 2, Group 3. Carter sat there. Group 9. He stood up, dragging his feet. He walked down the jet bridge, not into the spacious, golden-lit cabin of a Gulf Stream, but into the crowded, narrow tube of a Boeing 737. He walked past first class. He saw a young man in a hoodie sipping champagne, laughing with the flight attendant. The envy hit Carter like a physical blow to the stomach. He kept walking, past business, past premium economy, deep into the belly of the plane. Row 48, the very last row. Seat 4080, the middle seat. To his left sat a woman with an infant on her lap. The baby was already red-faced, screaming at a pitch that pierced Carter's eardrums. To his right sat a man who was easily 6'4", his knees jammed into the seat ahead, his elbows claiming both armrests. "Excuse me," Carter muttered, trying to squeeze in. The large man didn't move his arm. Carter had to contort his body, wedging himself into the 18 inches of space. His knees pressed hard against the plastic tray table. The smell hit him instantly. They were right next to the rear lavatories. The sharp, chemical scent of blue disinfectant mixed with the stale odor of recycled coffee and the humidity of 300 people. As the plane pushed back, Carter tried to recline his seat. It didn't budge. The mechanism was broken. "Ladies and gentlemen," the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, "we have a bit of a headwind today, so flight time will be a little longer than usual. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the 7-hour and 40-minute flight to New York." 7 hours. Carter closed his eyes. In the darkness behind his eyelids, he saw the leather recliner of the G700. He saw the steam rising from the Chilean sea bass. He heard the quiet hum of a private cabin. He realized then that the money wasn't what he missed most. It was the insulation. He had paid millions to insulate himself from the world, from people, from consequences. And now, the insulation was gone. He was just another body in a metal tube, hurtling through the sky, trapped in the middle seat of his own making. A tear leaked out of his eye and rolled down his cheek. The baby next to him screamed. 40,000 feet above him, in a different airspace, the atmosphere was very different. The Vanguard G700 was cruising smoothly toward the Maldives. The cabin was dim, lit only by the soft, amber mood lighting. Jordan Banks sat in seat 1A, her legs tucked under her, a cashmere blanket draped over her lap. She was reading a book, a real paper one, enjoying the silence. Sarah, the lead flight attendant, approached softly with a fresh pot of herbal tea. "Your tea, Ms. Banks," Sarah whispered, placing the china cup on the side table. "Thank you, Sarah," Jordan said, marking her page and looking up. "Actually, do you have a moment?" "Of course, Ma'am." Jordan gestured to the empty seat across the aisle, seat 2A, where Carter had sat. "Please, sit for a moment." Sarah hesitated, trained never to sit with passengers. but she saw the warmth in Jordan's eyes. She sat down on the edge of the seat. "I wanted to apologize for what you had to endure today," Jordan said sincerely. "You handled Mr. Sterling with incredible professionalism. Most people would have lost their temper." "It was challenging," Sarah admitted, with a small, tired smile. "But we are trained to de-escalate. I just feel bad that he ruined your flight." "He didn't ruin it," Jordan corrected her. "He clarified it. He reminded me why I started this company, to provide a standard of excellence, not just in machinery, but in character." Jordan reached into her bag and pulled out a sleek, cream-colored envelope. She slid it across the table to Sarah. "I spoke with HR before we took off from London," Jordan said. Sarah opened the envelope. Her eyes widened as she read the letter inside. "Miss Banks," Sarah gasped. "Head of in-flight standards. This salary figure. Is this a typo?" "No," Jordan smiled. "It's a promotion. I need someone to train the new crews. Someone who knows that service isn't about servitude, but about dignity. You kept yours today, even when he tried to take it from you. That's the kind of leadership I need." Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say. Thank you." "You earned it," Jordan said. "Now, go tell Captain Miller to set the autopilot. You're off duty. Grab a glass of champagne and relax for the rest of the flight." Sarah stood up, clutching the letter to her chest, looking like a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "Thank you, Jordan." As Sarah walked back to the galley, beaming, Jordan turned back to the window. Below her, the clouds were breaking, revealing the vast, deep blue of the ocean. The world looked peaceful from up here. She thought about Carter Sterling. She didn't feel anger anymore. She didn't even feel satisfaction. She just felt a quiet sense of balance. The universe had a way of correcting its own errors. Carter had spent his life thinking he was above the turbulence, unaware that the higher you fly on hot air, the harder you fall when the balloon pops. Jordan took a sip of her tea, the warmth spreading through her chest. "Safe travels, Carter," she whispered into the quiet cabin. She turned off her reading light, closed her eyes, and drifted into a peaceful sleep, while the jet carried her effortlessly toward the sun. And that is the story of how Carter Sterling flew too close to the sun and got burned by the very person he tried to step on. It's a brutal reminder that money might buy you a first-class ticket, but it can't buy you class. Carter learned the hard way that you never know who you're talking to. That quiet person in the hoodie might just own the plane, the company, and your future. What do you think? Did Jordan go too far by ruining his deal? Or did Carter get exactly what he deserved? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever seen instant karma happen in real life? If you enjoyed this story of justice served at 40,000 feet, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching, and remember, be kind. You never know who's watching.